The Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery is a multiple-choice test, administered by the United States Military Entrance Processing Command, used to determine qualification for enlistment in the United States Armed Forces. It is often offered to American high school students when they are in the 10th, 11th and 12th grade, though anyone eligible for enlistment may take it. Although the test is administered by the military, it is not a requirement that a test taker with a qualifying score enlist in the armed forces. History: the ASVAB was first introduced in 1968 and was adopted by all branches of the military in 1976. It underwent a major revision in 2002. In 2004, the test's percentile rank scoring system was renormalized, to ensure that a score of 50% really did represent doing better than exactly 50% of the test takers. Categories. Current equals, the ASVAB currently contains 10 sections. The duration of each test varies from as low as 10 minutes up to 36 minutes for arithmetic reasoning. The entire ASVAB is 3 hours long. The test is typically administered in a computerized format at military entrance processing stations, known as MEPS, or at a satellite location called a military entrance test site. The ASVAB is administered by computer at the MEPS, while a written version is given at most MET sites. Testing procedures vary depending on the mode of administration. Computerized test format: General Science, 16 questions in 8 minutes, Arithmetic Reasoning, 16 questions in 39 minutes, Word Knowledge, 16 questions in 8 minutes, Paragraph Comprehension, 11 questions in 22 minutes, Mathematics Knowledge, 16 questions in 20 minutes, Electronics Information, 16 questions in 8 minutes, Automotive and Shop Information, 11 questions in 7 minutes, Mechanical Comprehension, 16 questions in 20 minutes, Assembling Objects, 16 questions in 16 minutes, Verbal Expression = plus, PC. Written test format: General Science, 26 questions in 11 minutes, Arithmetic Reasoning, 30 questions in 36 minutes, Word Knowledge, 35 questions in 11 minutes, Paragraph Comprehension, 15 questions in 13 minutes, Mathematics Knowledge, 25 questions in 24 minutes, Electronics Information, 20 questions in 9 minutes, Automotive and Shop Information, 25 questions in 11 minutes, Mechanical Comprehension, 25 questions in 19 minutes, Assembling Objects, 25 questions in 15 minutes, Verbal Expression = plus, PC. Navy applicants also complete a coding speed test. Previous numerical operations, space perception, tool knowledge, general information, attention to detail, coding speed. Armed Forces Qualification Test. An Armed Forces Qualification Test score is used to determine basic qualification for enlistment. Afqt scores are divided into the following categories: Category I, 93 euro 99, Category 2, 65 euro 92, Category 3A, 50 euro 64, Category 3B, 31 euro 49, Category 4A, 21 euro 30, Category 4B, 16 euro 20, Category 4C, 10 euro 15, Category V, 0 euro 9. The formula for computing an Afqt score is AR plus MK plus. The VE score is determined by adding the raw scores from the PC and WK tests and using a table to get the VE score from that combined PC and WK raw score. Afqt scores are not raw scores, but rather percentile scores indicating how each examinee performed compared with all other examinees. Thus, someone who receives an Afqt of 55 scored better than 55% of all other examinees. The highest possible percentile is 99. The minimum score for enlistment varies according to branch of service and whether the enlistee has a high school diploma. GED holders who earn 15 college credits 100 level or greater are considered equivalent with those holding high school diplomas, so that they need only the Tier I score to enlist. Eligibility is not determined by score alone. Certain recruiting goal practices may require an applicant to achieve a higher score than the required minimum Afqt score in order to be considered for enlistment. Rules and regulations change on a daily basis. Applicants should call their local recruiting center for up-to-date qualification information. Law prohibits applicants in Category V from enlisting. In addition, there are constraints placed on Category 4 recruits. Recruits in Category 4 must be high school diploma graduates but cannot be denied enlistment solely on this criteria if the recruit is needed to satisfy established strength requirements. Furthermore, the law constrains the percentage of accessions who can fall between categories VVII. Composite scores. In addition to the ASVAB's Afqt, each branch has Military Occupational Specialty, or MOS, scores. Combinations of scores from the 9 tests are used to determine qualification for a MOS. These combinations are called aptitude area scores, composite scores, or line scores. Each of the 5 armed services has its own aptitude area scores and sets its own minimum composite scores for each MOS. Air Force Air National Guard Composite Scores. Test validity. The Afqt has been used in non-military settings as a proxy measure of intelligence, for example, in Herenstein and Murray's book The Bell Curve. Because of the test's significance both inside and outside military settings, it is important to examine what the test measures, that is to evaluate the construct validity of the Afqt. Kaufman's 2010 review stated that David Marks scanned the literature for datasets containing test estimates for populations or groups taking both the Afqt and tests of literacy. One study on 9 groups of soldiers differing in job and reading ability found a correlation of 0.96 between the Afqt and reading achievement. Another study showed significant improvements among Black and Hispanic populations in their Afqt scores between 1980 and 1992 while whites only showed a slight decrement. Another study obtained reading scores for 17-year-olds for those same ethnic groups and dates and found a correlation of 0.997 between reading scores and Afqt scores. This nearly perfect correlation was based on 6 pairs of data points from 6 independent population samples evaluated by 2 separate groups of investigators. According to Marks, on the basis of the studies summarized here, there can be little doubt that the Armed Forces Qualifications Test is a measure of literacy. However, it is important to note that Afqt has been shown to correlate more highly with classic IQ tests than they do with one another, and that the crystallized intelligence measured by Afqt is measured very similarly by HSLA, in particular. References. Further reading, Gregory, Robert J. Psychological Testing, History, Principles, and Applications. Boston, Allen and Bacon. ISBN 978-0-205-78214-7. Lay Summary. Hogan, Thomas P. Brooke Cannon. Psychological Testing, A Practical Introduction. Hoboken, New Jersey, John Wiley & Sons. ISBN 978-0-471-73807-7. Lay Summary. Marks, DFIQ Variations Across Time, Race, and Nationality, an Artifact of Differences in Literacy Skills. Psychological Reports, 106, 643-664. External links, Official ASVAB Information, the official ASVAB website for the U.S. Department of Defense. About Guide to ASVAB, ASVAB Test Description, includes structure of the test, time allotted per section of the test and which sections are counted towards the Armed Forces qualifying test score. Kaufman, S.B. The Flynn Effect and IQ Disparities Among Races, Ethnicities, and Nations, Are There Common Links? 1.